Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, depending on when you are watching this edition of Hypnosis Week Live. It's me again, Alex William Smith, better known to many of you as Jonathan Royle, the British bad boy of hypnosis of magicalguru.com, and I've got yet again another amazing guest for you. Now, before I introduce this lady, I'm going to make it quite clear, because people who watch this show know I play devil's advocate, and I will ask the questions that people perhaps wouldn't dare to ask. I'll ask the questions that are running through your heads at home and the obvious stuff as well. But I just want to make my position very clear to start off with. Long story cut short, I've been doing hypnotherapy since I was 14 in terms of charging clients. I'm now 44, so it's over 30 years. And I initially started off with a course that was quite literally two 60-minute audio cassettes and roughly 78 sheets of A4 paper, double-spaced typing. And from that, I started doing smoking cessation, weight loss, confidence phobias, making money, getting publicity. So people who are watching, my stance is that it is totally possible to become a confident, assuming that the training's right, competent hypnotherapist for the bread and butter money stuff. Not for everything, but for the bread and butter money stuff. It's possible with very little training at all. After all, I had two 1-hour audio cassettes and about 78 sheets of double type paper. That is not to say that over the years I didn't go and learn other things. I did, and that's what I want to make clear here. Over the years, what people in the industry call continuing professional development, CPD, I would argue I've probably done more than anyone else in the industry. And that sounds arrogant, big-headed, and also somewhat stupid, really, given some of the ways I promote myself. But if you go on my Facebook, Alex William Smith, or facebook.com/Alex the Hypnotist, look at the photo albums, you'll see images of diplomas, certificates, course attendance, documents, all manner of stuff from over the past 30 years. And you'll see that's not an idle claim. Now, none of these courses, to the best of my knowledge, at the time, back in sort of 2016, when people started being some people started being a bit verbal on the internet again, none of them were approved by the General Hypnotherapy Standards Council or General Hypnotherapy Register here in England. Now, I say as far as I was aware, because ironically, it turns out after doing a proper approved, credible, I call them shut eyes, but your brainwashed people would say, in terms of it's got to be credible, recognised. Some people mislead and say recognised by the government. It is, but it's not a government requirement. I was getting lots of people going, well, what the hell do you know? You're not in the, you haven't done a General Hypnotherapy Standards Council approved course. You're not in the General Hypnotherapy Register. How can you possibly be teaching other people? And despite the fact I was getting great results, I just wanted to shut these people up. And I figured that the best way to do that would be to go and get the certificate that was properly approved and endorsed by the people that everyone was going, if you've not got that, you don't know what you're doing, because if I got that, then they can't be saying that. Simple. So I sought out someone who I considered to be the best teacher, frankly, in so much as being General Hypnotherapy Standards Council approved, General Hypnotherapy Register approved, being an approved trainer for them, a mentor for them, a supervisor for them, and also having, which I thought was quite important, a background in nursing, which I believe gives you more credible insight than just a layperson, frankly, for certain things, especially things we'll be talking about later. And that lady is the lady I shall be interviewing today, who very kindly, despite my perceived bad boy reputation, despite the fact that I do stage hypnosis shows, as well as therapy and all these controversial things, actually allowed me to take her course and was very patient with me, because there were times where I was quite stubborn and said, to be honest, I wouldn't do it that way. I found other ways of doing it myself over the years. But she was prepared to say, a lot of people won't, but she's flexible enough to say everyone finds their own way of doing things once you get out in the field. And that is another sign of a good teacher, someone that will encourage you to adapt things to yourself. And that is why, despite the fact I'm going to play devil's advocate a bit over the next hour, I would 100% unreservedly recommend that if you feel that you need to get a diploma that is enabling you to join the General Hypnotherapy Register and show that you've done a course that's approved by the General Hypnotherapy Standards Council, whether that's because you want to be able to shut people up like I did before, or whether it's because you feel that that will help put clients' minds at rest, and for a small number of them it will, but most couldn't care less as long as you can do the job. But for whatever your motivation is, if you want to go down that route, then you need to be looking at the link that will be below this video when it goes live and contacting my guest this week, who we welcome to the show right now, Susie Lawrence. How are you doing, Susie?
Hi, everybody. I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine.
Excellent. So look, there was a time, I ask everyone this question first, there was a time when you weren't a hypnotherapist. What was your journey to get here? What's your background? Where do you come from? And how does that...
Really senior nurse management, to be honest. And then I had 11 spine operations, which made nursing very impossible, even in the management sense, because I knew that if somebody was falling, I'd go to collect, to go catch them. And I decided there and then it was no good. So I thought I need to look for something else. It just so happened Peter was wanting an NLP course, and his birthday was coming up, and it was a special birthday. So I decided to have a little look and thought, I'm not paying them prices for a surprise, to be fair. And I saw this other hypnotherapy course, paid for it, sorted it, got nothing the day before. So I wrote one of my snotograms, as I do. And lo and behold, the person who trained us, he rang me up, and I don't think I was overly kind that morning, which is very unusual for me, but I wasn't. The fact that I paid and had sorted it and he was excited and nothing had arrived, not even where to go or anything, was not best pleased, as you can imagine. So at the time he said, well, I think you, I get the impression that you think this is a load of rubbish. And I actually was quite rude, and I just said, I think it's a load of bollocks. However, if that's what he wants to do, then so be it. That's his presence, so we can do it. And he said, well, I tell you what, why don't you come with him? And it was a spin up. Do I go there or do the ironing? And I thought, well, if all else fails, yeah, that's the truth, Alex. If all else fails, I can be in Betty's by lunchtime. And that was the plan.
Tea rooms in England, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a beautiful tea room. And I thought, well, I can be in there by lunchtime if all else fails. And actually, I was the one out of 12 people who was hooked, who actually took it up after I qualified. Nobody else did. I became quite addicted towards it and loved every minute. So the minute I left that room, after we'd done that module, I'd go home, train, I'd completely go and hypnotize anything and everything. And I had a line of people who wanted it doing. And that's where it began.
Sudden change of mind from it's bollocks to you kind of almost being addicted to it.
Well, I think that the issue was I can do this in my time when if my back's bad, then I know I can't do it. Mm-hmm. So, and my neck. So there's times when I know it would be ridiculous to book in clients, whereas there's times where I know I'm much brighter and able to do things. In fairness, I've used hypnosis since that day on myself, and everything is much more improved for me. So I know it works. So yeah, that's how I got there, and I do it all the time, as you know.
Well, that's
I enjoy the training side. I enjoyed the training side as well, because that's much more personalised to the students. And and you forge a beautiful relationship with every student, and they become part of your family. Now, as you know, I only do 1s and 2s. I do that for a reason, so that we can practice and more practice. And you know, I think practice makes perfect, as you know. So that's the reason why I only do 1 and 2s. It's not, I don't do it for financial gain, like a lot of people do and have to maybe. I do it because I enjoy doing it. And as you know, you know, lots of my students are still friends. Well, we're all of them. I have not fallen foul of any of them. To be fair, we still meet up several times a year. We have days out together, etc., etc. They're a special family.
Excellent. So, I mean, you did that course, you're now training, but to do that, you've got to jump through certain hoops. In terms of can I just clarify for people at home that in England there isn't just what I mentioned before, it's just that is what Susie is approved as a trainer and mentor and whatnot, which is the General Hypnotherapy Standards Council and General Hypnotherapy Register. There's a whole bunch of other ones as well. The National Council of Hypnotherapists, oh bloody hell, you just search and there's tons of them. The key thing they have in common is that once you become a member of one of them, having done a course that fulfills the criteria, which is roughly similar for most of them, that you then get, you can say that you're also approved by the Complementary and Natural Healthcare Council in England. Now, I know in some countries in the world this is all completely irrelevant, and arguably it's completely irrelevant in England because despite having been saying it since easily the early to mid 80s, I can recall, they were saying, it'll only be a few years now and we'll convince the government to make it law that you've got to be in a certain thing to trade as a hypnotherapist. Well, near enough 40 years on, we're no closer, and we never will be, I don't think, because how do you stop people from speaking to other people? So in terms of the hoops you had to jump through, just to explain to people who are watching who don't quite understand, there's certain criteria, isn't there, for the courses that you run because you are approved by the General Hypnotherapy Standards Council. Things in terms of how long they have to be, how much of that physically has to be with you and all that kind of stuff. Can you explain to people what the criteria is?
Well, I'm not quite sure what the criteria is now, but when I did it, you had to be trained for 2 years. I've had to work full time for 2 years. And then you have to go through a huge amount of paperwork, submit it all. You have to link things to other things. It's absolutely...
to clarify, this Susie's explaining what she had to do to become a registered trainer. Yeah.
It's actually a pain in the neck to do, to be fair. If I had to do it again now, I wouldn't bother. I just wouldn't bother, to be fair, because it's just it's a ball ache, basically.
Okay.
It's a ball ache.
You're honest.
And I wouldn't do it again. Definitely not. But as it happens, I never have any problems. So.
Now, I don't expect you to necessarily answer this question, because I know it is putting you on a spot a bit, being a registered trainer for the GHSC and GHR. But their criteria to become a certified practitioner is that there's got to be a minimum of 450 hours of training in total. And of that, 165 hours of it has to be what they consider to be directed. But of that directed training, 120 hours minimum has to be guided, and they clarify that as physically you as the trainer in the room with the student. Anything above that 120 hours up to the 165 guided can be done over Skype or such things. That's what the website said when I looked at it 5 minutes ago before we spoke. I know loads of people, and I'm not going to mention names, who've done courses that give them that, and frankly, they couldn't hypnotise their way out of a wet flipping paper box. I know people who've done 2-day so-called wonder courses who are now massively successful, and then there's everything in between. Obviously, there's extremes, there's differences. I get that. Nobody fits one scenario. I mean, what do you? I know you have to abide by those because you to be able to give the logo and all that. I totally get that. But I mean, 450 hours training.
I've always done it. That's always been standard from day one, because it wasn't 450 before. It was much less, but they upped that. Good few years ago, they upped that. But it didn't make any difference to me because we've always done it. We've always done training after our module as well. So it just doesn't make any difference to me. We've always done that amount of work.
Right. I was going to say, I don't remember. The irony of it is, after I did the course with you, and 100%, I look back in time, and I'd forgotten, but in 2004, when I was looking through all my old certificates, it appears I did a course with a mate of mine, Ray Ronson of I can't even bloody say it now, Celestial Training in Wales. And at the time, he was a GHSC and GHR registered trainer, but he's not bothered to renew that, because I ended up speaking to him. So if you want GHSC and GHR registration, Susie's your only choice of the two people I've just mentioned, because he doesn't do it anymore. But it turns out I'd actually already done it in 2004, so I could have told people to F off them when they were saying I hadn't. I just didn't find the certificate. But I do remember the course, that wasn't as long. Why do you think they put the number of hours up?
I think what they're wanting to do is to make sure that these courses are competent, your students are competent. And it's very difficult if you've got a course of 10, 20 people or more to watch them doing their technique. And, you're only watching them for a few seconds. If you've got 10 people to go round, how can you know that they are consistently being doing the work properly? So hence why I think the hours went up, and there was nothing more added into the courses, definitely not. But I think it's because people are going on these training courses and they weren't competent when they came out. And there was a lot of, as you well know, within the industry, a lot of people talk. A lot of people go out of the room and they say some not so nice things about hypnotherapists. And I think a lot of this got back to the main bodies. And of course, they have to substantiate why they sit on that board when all's said and done. They've got to do something, haven't they?
Well,
for their credibility. And they are up in standards, so say, all the time. So, and at the end of the day, most hypnotherapists are of a good standard, but there are some that are not quite, and should go and do some more training to make it better.
Well, I'm going to say this so you don't have to, but the sad thing is there's a lot of people who are trainers for various organisations, including GHSC and GHR, who frankly haven't really. I'd be surprised if they see more than, a couple of clients a month at best, because their main income is on running bloody training courses. So it's like the blind leading the blind, sadly. I said that so that Susie doesn't have to. The key thing to me that makes you stand out is, I'm sure there's some other people out there in the industry that this applies to, but I just haven't encountered them, so I can only speak about that which I know, is that you do have a background in nursing, as you mentioned before. And in particular, when it comes to things like hypnobirthing, fertility things, and other things that are kind of on the borderline of where, from a sort of ethical standpoint, I always, and I'm sure you do, tell people that they should keep in contact with their doctor, so we're acting as a complement, an addition, not instead of. that because you've got the nursing background, you can bring something to the training and knowledge and insights that you can impart to students that other trainers can't.
Exactly. And every student learns a lot about, as in their body and health conditions while they're with me, because I am medical orientated. So consequently, a lot of the stuff we will be doing, there will be a lot of medical conditions that we are, that we are coming across as we do each module. And I think that the students love that part of it, because none of them wanted to be nurses. They just wanted to be really good therapists. Yeah. But having that extra background really, really does help them, to be fair. And they understand themselves and how their body works much easier. As you know, Alex.
I do, but I'm playing devil's advocate and asking you the questions that the people at home get from all sides. I know the answers to pretty much all this, but the people at home don't. Yeah, I mean, that's it's so even though I'd already done more courses than soft mic, as I mentioned earlier, it was nice that it was put across in a completely different way. That what I nearly said that's what made it bearable, and by that I mean for people at home, because I 100% recommend it as being enjoyable for me mentally. Over the years I've done courses on purpose that I can say I have done and that I'm up to date on stuff, but it does get to the point quite often that you're getting the same old thing explained in the same old way again and again and again. It's nice when somebody brings something different to it and a different angle that I've never been a nurse, I've never worked in a medical environment, so be able to get that kind of insight from Susie, it's a different way of looking at things, and that's what made it, well, more than bearable, a right good laugh at times as well, which will make sense to any of you when you go and see Susie or meet her and stuff. She's been so well behaved on here, but she's not she's not scared at telling you exactly what she thinks and telling you if you're going about things the wrong way or whatnot, which is good because it saves you wasting time. So look,
I am quiet, Alex, at times, I'm not always noisy. I do have my times when I can be quiet, honest.
Okay. I'll believe you. So this isn't so much a you training other people question, it's more from a point of view of you treating people. And I know what I think the answer is, but do you find being able to tell clients that you've got that background in nursing, that their state of mind for things like hypnobirthing, fertility issues, that it kicks in the placebo effect more because of that nurse authority figure background?
Two answers to that. Mm-hmm. For people who are just coming for usual treatment, they look at the website and then it becomes quite obvious because it's written on there, and a lot of my clients there was drawn to that. For the other side, which was the hypnobirth and hypnofertility stuff, I think it makes it much more appealing to people when they know I have been a midwife, because then they know I know what it feels like now, and I know every woman who's a hypnotherapist who's had a child will know what birthing feels like, but there's more to it because I've got the background, the knowledge, etc., etc. Now, at the end of the day, I still ensure that your clients are working with their midwife and their doctor, mm-hmm. but I just slip in at the side of them to do this extra part, which makes it makes it so much easier for them. They're so much more relaxed, and the birth is so much easier for them, and the postnatal period as well. But I can give them, because of my experience, I can give them more hints and tips coming from a different background.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that you get more I'm going to use the word respect, taken more seriously by the people who are currently still working in the medical arena, you know, that are around when you're around, the fact that you can drop in, you know, oh, you know, I have got a nursing background.
I never do, Alex.
You know?
I never ever do it. I have no need.
Okay.
I have no need, to be honest. They get the pack, it's written in the pack. I don't have to ram it down their throats, thankfully. People, a lot of my work, as you know, comes from word of mouth. The work just comes in regardless. I mean, you know, I actually prefer fertility to the birthing process, if you want the honest truth. I think that's so much more exciting, because here we have a lady who can't conceive, or a husband who has, you know, issues, and then you are working with them to find solutions. Most of them have they beat the GP, and then they find out that they've got to pay for fertility treatment, which, as you know, can be thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
This is a heck of a lot cheaper, and they can have lots of cracks of the whip with it. And because they get the package, they take the package and they can use that each month after that if they are having conceived that month. So they get
what would you say
package.
What do you reckon the key in the majority? I know I'm speaking generalised here, because obviously we can't be specifics, both for client confidentiality and also just because there's so many variables. But would you say that stress is a big key thing in fertility issues?
I think stress, but there's other reasons. There's medical reasons why people can't conceive, but I think stress is a major thing, especially in fertility, to be fair. I have seen people come to me, they just come for a chat. Then, you know, and all I've done is give them a relaxation CD and then book them in for when, because it's quite a technical process to book a person and when they're going to come for the first session, etc. Because your timings have to be exact for fertility.
Yeah.
And they've rang me up and said, I'm pregnant. And I think that's amazing, because all they've done is just come for the, you know, just for a chat. They are so relaxed, they understand, they know they've got a therapy available to them then, and immediately they're pregnant. It's wonderful. And I've had hypnotherapists come to me who have been in that situation and now have children. And I can't name names, obviously, because of previous there. But I've, you know, and I just love holding that new baby. I always say to them, look, if you get pregnant, I'm getting the first push of that pram. I never do. I never ever get that push of that pram.
Excellent. Wow. Where was I going from there? So, well, there's no easy way. Sometimes the questions aren't easy to ask, but I know when I was thrown in at the deep end years ago, and I've not had much encounters with doing fertility things at all, I can honestly say. It's not something purposely, it's something that, if anything, when people have contacted me with such issues, I've always referred them elsewhere, because I'm a believer. There were times in my life, honestly, that I would see clients for pretty much anything, because it was a case of making the money. Priorities change in life. I actually do genuinely believe now that unless you have got some direct insight, experience, or you're in the right contextual position, that you shouldn't treat certain things. And by that, I mean, I genuinely believe the best people for hypnobirthing are women, but more ideally women who've actually had kids. Just
you could
because...
say that about a midwife, couldn't you too, though? Because when I was doing my training as a midwife all those years ago, midwives on labour suite, there was very few midwives who had children, believe it or not.
Oh my God.
Very few. So they couldn't understand exactly what woman was going through. But yet, from a textbook point of view and from experience of what they are treating day in, day out, they do. but they could never feel that.
Mm.
And that used to make me feel a bit peculiar first, because I always wanted a family.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I'll never be able to work on Labour Suite because this lot haven't got any children. And that's just seemed to be the the way it was. And yet other midwives who did have children were on different, either on antenatal or postnatal wards. But I think it's changed. Midwives do have children, it seems that we do have lots of people who want to go into midwifery and have families. But it was just very peculiar at that time. All the midwives on that unit never had children. And most of them were way past the age of having a child as well. Some weren't, but they were never going to have them. Which obviously, it was none of my business why they were going to do that. It just seemed peculiar to me.
Yeah, to say the least. But I'd extend that not just to hypnobirthing or midwifery, but I mean, I believe that, for example, in the past, I've seen quite a lot of clients who are now, fortunately, former cocaine addicts. And I am particularly good at getting them off cocaine. But I genuinely believe that's because in the 90s, very early to mid 90s, and this is stuff that, I'm not revealing anything big here, it's all in my autobiography. I did get into that crowd in London, going to Stringfellas and all this, and there was cocaine about. So I've experienced it. I know what it feels like. I think that whatever it is, a therapist needs to have some first-hand experience, or definitely shouldn't be. I mean, the classic one is what Steve Miller says. For Christ almighty, there's people out there claiming to help people lose weight, and they're massively, clearly overweight themselves. What's your, there's people stopping people smoking that smoke. Now, in fairness, I smoked for years. And I was stopping people smoking highly successfully and getting media publicity. So it is possible to do it, but I think it's probably on that edge of you probably ethically shouldn't do. What would you say?
You keep losing me.
Oh, I'm back. You're there. What would you say? Would you think that ethically people, is it right for people who are overweight to be treating weight loss clients, people who smoke to smoke and so on?
Oh, I personally believe it's a load of tosh. I think, as long as you were doing the right thing with your client and you were giving 100%, it doesn't matter if you're a fat practitioner or you're a thin practitioner. At the end of the day, all that client wants is to lose the weight or to stop smoking or whatever it is, to come off the drugs. It doesn't really matter, as long as the therapist knows what she's doing or he knows what he's doing and can do it competently, and that client has respect and has a beautiful rapport with them. It'll work.
No, I agree.
Respects for weight, the therapist who is overweight can understand the client and their issues far more. Like the smoker who's a smoker can understand what a craving is. Now, I've never smoked in my life ever, so if I was taking a smoking client, I don't actually know what that craving feels like. Now, I do it if it was for chocolate, but I don't for cigarettes, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So for that reason, actually, I don't take many smokers. It's only when they are persistent with me and want me to do it because of, word of mouth and things for other clients that I've treated, that I'll do it, to be fair. It's the smell that gets me. I can't cope with the smell. Nicotine is horrible. But where weight's concerned, I've got masses of people out there who have been highly successful losing weight. And yet, no, I'm not Twiggy. And I'm not ashamed that I'm not Twiggy either. Sorry, Steve.
Hey, that's the wonderful thing. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. And well, it's not just an
Exactly.
opinion, it's your experience as well.
Exactly, and I think that's the problem, isn't it? It's about respect. It's about respect in this industry, and about, you know, people say things and it's their point of view, but that's how it should be, just said and done with. But unfortunately, in this industry at the moment, it doesn't. It continues, and it becomes quite nasty.
Sadly. So, well, as far as I can remember, which is, you know, I mean, it's a little over 30 years now, it's always been the same, sadly. And I think it does come down to that Sigmund Freud thing of therapists are merely people searching for answers to their own problems. Sadly, a lot of them out there haven't found the solution yet, clearly. Before we segue into, because I attended one of your, with Susan Watson and Marie, I attended one of your anxiety workshop days.
You did. It was real fun.
It was amazingly good fun, actually. And there was some cracking little techniques in there. Hopefully I don't get slapped on the wrist for shame, but one I was shown, it was called the butterfly. And I don't know how this will translate on a reverse video, but effectively it was getting your fingers and thumbs and making a butterfly. Yeah, looks like a butterfly. And then placing gently onto your sort of shouldery area near the neck and gently tapping it. It was to get a sense of calmness and stuff for panic. Well, I've taken that, and I don't know, because I've not gone on the full length anxiety course. This could be something that's in the course manual for that I've just ended up at the same.
That was for Be Your Own Hero.
Be Your Own Hero workshop.
Be Your Own Hero.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was the Be Your Own Hero workshop. But it was still incredible fun, and this was an anxiety technique, Law, wasn't it?
It was, and you can actually look it up, called the butterfly technique, on the internet, and there's lots written about it as well. So anybody who, any of the therapists who want to access that, just pop the butterfly technique and it'll come up. Butterfly hug, I think it's called.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm just saying, I've used it, it works, and then I haven't read that. I'm going to go and do that later, because I haven't actually checked.
Great for kids. Great for kids.
So tell me, that was the Be Your Own Hero workshop. I'm getting it mixed up because that was an anxiety technique. And I know that you've launched the anxiety practitioner course with Susan. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about that? Why is there a separate anxiety course? Because as a devil's advocate, why is it that if you've done all this 450 hours of training and get your general hypnotherapy standards approved certification from your good self, which I know is worth its weight in gold, and I am playing devil's advocate here, why the bloody hell do you then need an anxiety practitioner course? Because surely the bottom line underlying stuff you've already taught us.
No. The stuff that's in the anxiety diploma course, and we do one for children and we do one for adults, have very different techniques in that you wouldn't add in. And that was the whole purpose of this, that you have different techniques that you would have learned on your course, basically. Very different techniques, a lot more neuroscience compared to what you would learn on your course. Fabulous. It is a fabulous, it's a fabulous course, both for the adults and for the children one that we do as well. But it's very different techniques. There's some small techniques, there's some much more in-depth techniques depending on what you are treating anxiety-wise.
It's interesting you use the word neuroscience. Because if I go back briefly, I know part of the reason why the butterfly thing works so well is because you're doing something that feels physically weird at the time. So that creates an element of confusion, disorientation, which arguably is causing critical faculty bypass. And the fact that now you've got your left on your right hand side, your right on the left hand side crossed over, and conventional psychology tells us that the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body and vice versa, that by reversing it, we're more likely to get what they call hemisync. I can't bloody speak today. I get an hemisync, where both sides kind of come together in harmony and make the person far more calm, relaxed, and suggestible. And there is neurological science to prove that. Why isn't there more neurological, proper proven back stuff in conventional hypnotherapy courses? It's great you're doing it with the anxiety stuff, but why isn't there more of that in?
Just going back to the butterfly hug, one of the reasons why I do that, or when I get people to put their hands on their chest when I teach them a breathing exercise, is so they're connected with themselves. Most people who are anxious are not actually connected to themselves at all. They're just in their head. But when you physically touch your body, you're connecting. You can feel the rise and fall of your chest wall.
Yeah.
You're more likely to be, I suppose they call it mindfulness, because you are in that moment, you can feel the rise and fall. You're connected with yourself. So that was just, to me, the butterfly hug is great for that, because you're actually in tune with yourself. Whereas, if you're just doing other techniques, you may not be.
Breathing, expand on breathing, because I know from having studied Buddhism and various other Eastern traditions that there is, forget hypnotherapy, although I know it can link together, but that breathing is something that most people do wrong, isn't it?
Well, we say that, but if we were all breathing wrong, then we would all have anxiety, wouldn't we? Oh,
well,
whatever.
A lot of people are doing it wrong, because what I mean is when you get your anxious clients or your panic attack clients, if you can teach them different breathing, it can help.
Well, there's a million different ways out there, and I'll just teach you what you've seen me little video that I do anyway. I ask them to put the hands on the chest wall just comfortably. All right. This is when they're at home by themselves, there's nobody around. If they are somewhere where they're going to get a bit stressed or anxious, they can just stare at the wall with their eyes open, but they don't have to touch the body, because so they don't want to look obvious what they're doing. Okay. And then I just tell them to slowly close their eyes. So you can do this, Alex. All right. And I tell them this is my technique, and it's very much like a technique called heart math. Okay. But my numbers are different to theirs. So you breathe in slowly and gently through your nose to the count of 4. And then breathe out and down by blowing it slowly, gently from your mouth to 6. That's in for 4 through your nose. Out and down from 6 from your mouth. And obviously, if you continue to do this, you will feel yourself relaxing. Now, I would add in other things, within about 2 minutes, they feel so much more calmer than they felt beforehand. They're so much more relaxed. And then I would add in positive suggestions to go with that as well. But just teaching them a simple thing like that.
You've not done it at all. Rewind the video and do it. Join in. You can feel it. And
it has such a wonderful effect for your client. That's the first thing that I teach them when a client comes to me, because I think, they're all slightly anxious because they don't know who I really am and if they can trust me, etc. So by doing that, more or less within, the first half an hour, they're so calm and so relaxed after that, and they think, right, I bagged that technique, I can use that anywhere, even if it's just going to the toilet. If they're in a stressful situation at work, just nip into the loo, doing that for a couple of minutes, and then they come out and they're refreshed. They can feel calm. They can go back in to doing what they were doing, and the stress levels will be much lower.
Excellent. Seriously, rewind the video and join in with what Susie's said, and you'll feel it, because I can still feel it now. Sort of
it does work. It does work. And you know, if you can, I like them to close their eyes, and I like them to have the hand on the chest wall, because you can feel it then. You're connecting with yourself.
Yeah, that is part of what I think was so effective about that. The fact that I could feel the
rise and fall. You can feel what you're doing then. You're with it, and then you can calm yourself. It's wonderful. Wonderful.
And I would argue, despite the fact that I openly said there's no such thing as hypnosis, but that comes down to definition. That which people choose to call hypnosis, I would argue that that is a very rapid way of getting somebody
into a trance,
hypnotized, because you've got fixation of attention both on the breathing and feeling the hand, disorientation because their eyes are closed, so therefore there's more internal focus on the breathing and that. And I would argue that in roughly the space of time that I was doing it on this video, which you can rewind as Susie was instructing, that was an induction as well. It can be as quick and as gentle and safe as that in a therapeutic context. Which brings me to the subject of rapid inductions. Now, I've kind of just answered it there, because you've arguably, I would say, you've just demonstrated one that's very quick, very gentle, and very safe. But rapid inductions quite often are perceived by therapists as chucking people on the floor and it all being shouting at people, sleep, and all that kind of madness and nonsense. What's your views on rapid inductions?
Now, you're asking me this because I went on a course a few weeks ago, didn't you? You think
that's not why I'm asking. I'm asking because I know that they're getting more open to the things like rapid inductions, as long as they're safe and within health and safety guidelines, your likes of General Hypnotherapy Standards Council. However, I know they still have a big black X against anyone doing stage hypnosis. And yet, ironically, there's loads of members, I'm not going to name them because it would be unfair to get them booted out, but I know there's loads of members of GHSC, GHR, other societies that say no stage hypnotist who are doing stage hypnosis shows.
Well, there's convincers and there's rapid inductions, isn't there? I like to give my clients, and I teach students the same way, but like you first said in the beginning of this, you teach students to do things, but you want them to adapt those things for their own way. And that's one thing that I will say were the wisest words Alex you've ever said, because you don't want clones of you as a tutor. I want all my students to be themselves, to be confident to go out there and do things. Yes, they started off with a similar process to me, but then they embellish that with their own work. And that's what makes them successful therapists, to be fair. But where stage is concerned, pardon me, it's not really my bag to do with clients unless I was going to do some fun, which I wouldn't really do with clients, I think. But if you were having a dinner party, then yeah, it comes in handy. As you know, Peter's trained as a hypnotherapist, and that's his job. I'm off duty when we go to dinner parties. It's not me. He does these little things. But that's not to say that I don't enjoy watching it, because I do. I went on Chris and Grant's course just for a bit of fun the other week, and I absolutely had a lovely time. I had a lovely time.
Christopher Caress and Grant Saunders, they were doing a course. Both great people, really nice guys, friends of mine.
Fantastic stage hypnotists, both of them. Loved every minute of the course for the day. It was lovely, to be fair. But it's not something that I went on to go out to become a stage hypnotist, because it's not me, as you know. I'm very much a therapist in the room with clients, one-to-one.
Well, you wouldn't be allowed to anyway, would you? Because you're a GHSC,
GHR
trainer.
Yeah, no, but I do know of people who do it with their clients, but that's up to them. That's entirely up to them. You can do convincers. I don't call them rapid inductions, doing magnetic fingers and things like that. That's not. But you've got to be careful who you are, who you are doing these techniques with. As long as the client understands the process and what's going to happen, then that's okay. I like to give them an experience. As far as I'm concerned, I'm charging them a set amount, and they want an experience from me. Most people come because they're stressed. They want to relax and enjoy it.
Am I allowed? We're recording this as live, so if you say no, people are forever going to wonder what it is I was about to ask you, but I'm going to ask permission first here. Because you noted it. You did say it in front of everyone when you came on one of my courses. You did say it to everyone who was there. So I'm guessing you wouldn't mind saying it on video. And that is, say you like to give people an experience. Well, are you prepared to share what one of those tricks of that experience is? That's very similar to what I purposely do to make sure clients feel they've had the magic wand that they perceive hypnosis to be.
I don't think it's in an experience. What I mean is that they are in a lovely, relaxed state, and I do gentle relaxation. They are warm. The room is created so it's a nice environment. What all hypnotherapists should be, their room should be welcoming, etc., etc. And we have gentle music in the background, etc. And I have, as you well know, I have the most wonderful warm heated blanket.
Excellent. This is what I was getting at. Yes.
And a lovely, well, unfortunately, I had to change the chair because with me spine, I couldn't help them get in and out of the chair that I had before, which was fantastic. Now I've got an electric chair for them. But to be fair, the clients love it. But it's about the experience. It's about having a neck pillow so that if anybody has got neck problems, if the heads are going to go down, it's got a cushion behind it. So it's not going to bring them out. They're going to go with the flow and just enjoy what's happening. Lots of little tiny tricks. When you come on the course, you pick them up. I use a lot of equipment, the Hypnocom system as well. But my students are taught both ways because obviously they can't go home and practice with the Hypnocom system. But they love it. Absolutely love it. But again, I make them do both so that they can do both.
Yeah.
And it's not about promoting the equipment. It's about that they know that they can put somebody under hypnosis easily using just their voice. They don't need the added extras. As long as the ambience is right in the room, they've got that rapport and they're happy. And they're confident in what they're doing.
Quite often, more clients will go to, with all those things in place, to real sleep.
I've had one or two, but not. And actually, I did go on a course once, and I was quite horrified because there was somebody on that course, and somebody said it was a quick induction course with somebody, and they said, "What do you do if somebody's snoring?" And this therapist said, "I kick the chair to wake him up." And the look of horror on my face must have said it all, to be honest, because I was just gobsmacked. The subconscious will always hear, no matter how deep you are, because I've tested that before on these people who've come out, and I've said, can you tell me about what I've said? And at first they go, no, no, no. And then I'll say about, say I was doing the beach or something. We'd been on the beach. I'd mentioned something on the, oh yes, you did. So they do hear, even when they're asleep and snoring, they do hear, because I've always tested that.
Yeah, the so-called hidden observer.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a 24-hour-a-day open access, isn't it? So.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't saying it as a bad thing, because I believe actually that if they go to sleep and then have a right good kip, because quite often people don't get proper, I'm going to call it healing sleep.
Great, I agree. I mean, I had a manager, well, actually, he was an owner as well as managing a company locally. And at the time, I had a banner in the therapy room, which I removed afterwards because I realised what was going on. And it had a list of not symptoms, but a list of conditions what I treated. No, you know, it went from the top down to the bottom. And every month he used to come. And every month he'd give me a different health condition. He was obviously under intense stress, and it got to the sexual dysfunction. And I just happened to go, I was thinking, oh no. And I just happened to turn my head, and I realised I was going down the list, and I thought, you so-and-so. And I said to him, I don't know whether he was consciously aware he was doing that, because where he was sat on the therapy chair, obviously the banner was opposite. So whether his subconscious was taking that on board or whether he was actually consciously doing it, I have no idea. But we cut that short then. I said, I tell you what, if you need just to come for relaxation purposes and to reduce your stress, there isn't a problem. We'll just keep on booking you in for that. You don't need to go down my list.
Excellent. Yeah, I think a lot of therapists don't realise how, just without any specific suggestion, so to speak, how just hypnotically guided, I'm going to say, deep relaxation can be in terms of helping people feel better, overcoming stress, and arguably even helping the body to get into the right zone for natural healing, dare I say?
Well, I'm a firm believer that, you know, a huge chunk of your work is done when you've got your client in the room and you listen to them. Most of it is offloaded and they feel 75% better before you even need to give them any therapy, to be fair. And I know that's quite controversial in this game, because people say, you know, we shouldn't have, it should be content free. Some people will have on their banner. Other people say, no, we don't need to, you know, cut to the chase and let's just get on with the therapy. Everybody's very different. But I have found in my experience, because I don't have, you know, a set 1 hour slot, 1.5 hours. You know, if it takes 2.5 hours, it takes 2.5 hours. I don't have clients booked in every hour of every day. You know, if I've got one in the morning, it'll be
neither do 90%
dinner time and one in an evening. You know, I don't want to be back to back with clients. I want to give them that experience that they deserve, to be fair. No, so that talking and letting them offload, to me, is such a valuable thing. Such a valuable thing. And it does work. It does work. Although I know I'll get slammed for saying that.
Hey, I couldn't agree with you more. I advocate advertising that stuff is content free so that it doesn't put off certain clients. But when they come and they've already filled in a questionnaire, I will say to them, look, we don't have to go into any of this. unless you want to. And I would say the vast majority of the time, people actually want to verbalise that which they've written down, so that they're metaphorically leaving it in the therapist office, leaving the baggage behind.
Well, you know, not everybody has somebody they can turn to, Alex. And you know, I get a lot of more older people, maybe because where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose once they've talked to their family and they've said it a few times, the family obviously get a bit bored or don't want to listen to it. So when they come to somebody new and they offload, and then you're able to help them, you know, there's nothing better than that feeling, to be fair, and then give them some therapy or whatever they need. A lot of them don't need an awful lot after they've offloaded, to be fair.
Yeah. They just
teach them some techniques to, you know, to keep them calm, etc. And for others, obviously, you get a lot of middle-aged people who are under tremendous stress at work, and again, they can't say what they really want to say at work because it's against the manager or people that they work with, etc. Once they've offloaded, they're so much better. Teach them some techniques, hypnotherapy, and then off they go.
I can't remember who said this exactly right now. I'm having a brain fart moment, but it might come back to me. But the quote was along the lines of, people should not become hypnotherapists and be treating people for anything really, unless they're capable of helping that person without hypnosis. I forget exactly who said that, but the way I understood it to mean was that, let's cut formal inductions, that effectively it's what you've just described, having the ability, and you've got that because of your background, medical, you'll have naturally, I don't know if you've done counselling courses in the past, but but you'd have got that experience doing it in the field as a nurse anyway, wouldn't you?
I think anybody who is anybody who has had a job where they're working with people, it's no different for them to what it was for me. Yes, I'm in the medical, you know, I've been in the medical side for a very long time, but it's who you are as a person, isn't it? And how you are with people, that people will open up to you. It all you don't have to have my background to get the best from your clients. Yes, it helps if it's a medical issue, but as long as you are, you know, you present yourself professionally, kindly, and you're listening, and you are warm with your clients, they will open up regardless. Now, controversially here, I don't know how to put this. Would I go to a male therapist for therapy? Or would a man come to a female for therapy? I think that is a topic that you could go on forever about. Me personally, would I go to a man that I don't know for therapy? No, I wouldn't. And yet I get a lot of men come to me, so it's the opposite sex, for therapy, and won't go to a man. I suppose that comes under the bracket of psychology.
Yeah, let's not forget, we can also throw into the mix for anyone who's thinking of doing a course, we're not saying you're limited to your marketplace, because obviously it's the client that makes the decision. And let's not forget that, yes, women may be less likely to go to a male therapist, generally speaking, and vice versa maybe, but we've also got people of different sexualities and genders and whatnot who, for whatever reason, would be more likely to go to different types of therapists. But that's something that, you know, an understanding of, well, done right, could actually help you, you know, create your own niche customer base. Yeah, so unfortunately, time's running away with us. We're just over the hour.
We've done an hour.
So I'm going to have to ask you the question I ask everybody now. I will just remind everyone at home. There's various things being said in the past hour that at first hearing you might have thought, I've been making notes galore, but various things you might think, oh, it might have bypassed you as just being an innocent thought, so to speak. But if you watch this video again and take notes, you'll realise that I'm telling you now, you want to pay particular attention to butterfly, hand on chest, breathing, eye closure. All those things are worth the weight in gold in terms of techniques and insights. Also, of course, look below this video, whether it's on YouTube or where it's been shared on social media, and there will be links underneath to Susie's Peace of Mind's website and POM Hypnotherapy, but both are websites, so you can get in contact with her if you want to go down the GHSC, GHR approved route. I 1,000,000% recommend Susie as the person to do that, not least of which is because she helps you to gear things so they're personal and right for you, and not just everything's got to be done this way. Yeah, you'll get the underlying things, they've got to be in place, but then you'll be shown how to be fluid, adaptable, flexible. Yeah. So the question I ask everyone at the end is, I see you have a door behind you. So imagine someone's just knocked on that door, and I use the same book every time, not because it's a particular favourite, just because then there's a consistency with these interviews. There's somebody behind that door, you answer it, and they've got the green cover or blue cover, depending on which edition, of the Dave Alman Hypnotherapy book. They've not read any other books. They've not bought any DVDs. They've not watched any online videos. They've done nothing except read that book. But they've decided, this is interesting. I want to learn more. Now, obviously, I've already said, if they want to go down the GHSC route and all that, they should come visit your website, come and see you. So you're not allowed to use that as an answer here, Susie. 3, what would your top 3 bits of advice be to them in terms of becoming the best possible therapist they can, both from it being a successful business point of view, but also from them being an ethical, safe, competent therapist? What would your 3 top tips be?
Well, I don't know why they want the Dave Alman book first, to be fair, because they don't, you know, there's so many. Well, they don't need books. If they're going to do the training, they do not need books, because your training should have everything in there. You do touch on marginally on Dave Alman, like you do on Erickson and other things. So you don't need all these books. What would I say? I think you've got to choose your trainer wisely. You've got to understand what the training's about. You've got to work out, why do you want to be a hypnotherapist? To be fair, because are they going into it because it's for money purposes, or are they going into it because they genuinely want to help people? Now, if they're doing it for money, then I wouldn't train them. I can tell you quite clearly, I would never train them. I only do them because they want to help people overcome. Most people who do the training have had issues and been to hypnotherapists.
There'll be people watching this. There'll be people watching this, Lord, going, well, hang on, Lord, but you let the dreaded bad boy Jonathan Royle do the course to get his approved certificate. And we all know that he's in it just for the money, don't we?
No, but that was your earlier life, Alex. That wasn't who you are now. And yes, you are quite controversial, and yes, you can be a bad boy when you want to be. But deep down inside, you aren't that person that you were before. And you do things now to help other therapists. You know, you only have to go into your boot camp and, oh my God, you know, I go in there and I feel lost because of the amount of wonderful work that's in there, I can't even open any of the sections because it just is overwhelming for me to even go in there and start looking. And that's why if I want any answers, I just text you and just say, give an idea, what, X, Y, and Z. Where will I find this? But 9 times out of 10, I don't go because it's overwhelming because there's so much. Now, if you were just doing that for the money, Alex, for what you charge for that boot camp is peanuts, as you know. So, bad boy Jonathan Royals, not bad boy Jonathan Royal, just people like to make you out to be bad boy Jonathan Royal. They don't know you as a true person, do they?
In the context of this interview, I have to reluctantly agree there because I just want to make it clear that what Susie said before is true. I know that she's got ethics and morals about who she will teach in the context. So I just wanted to make that clear. So yeah, that was number one. What was your number one?
I forgot what the question is.
Number one was be very careful and think about who your trainer's going to be that you go with and all that.
I don't know what I would say, to be fair. I don't have what I call a tick list. I have to interview that person, and it's not even an interview. It's a chat with a cup of tea and some big things, as you know, and get to know that person, and just by being with them, I'll know whether they're going to make a good hypnotherapist or they're not going to make a good hypnotherapist, if you see what I mean. I just know, and hence why I can be very selective because I don't need to work. I don't need to train. I get plenty more clients. There's not a problem there. But I choose to do this because I want to see great standards out there. So I don't know what I don't know. I've never listened in a confession here. I've never looked at any of the videos that you've already done.
I think
I don't know. There's 3 questions coming.
I think, to be honest, you've answered it there. I think that viewers at home need to know, and I'm going to. When Susie says she doesn't need to do this for the money, I can test she doesn't. And I think that if you look for somebody, whether it's Susie or somebody else, to teach you who isn't financially dependent on you booking on a course with them or buying products off them. And that's why my marketing can be in your face and arrogant, but I do make big points of, I bought my own property before I was 30 and that kind of thing, which anyone can see by going on Facebook and looking at my photo albums. The deeds are there. It's because if somebody doesn't need your money, then clearly the reason they're doing it is because, and this is something that everyone and all the interviews that you've not had a chance to watch of Hypnosis Week, pretty much 99% of them all summed it up at the end with, you've got to have to have any longevity in the business, you've got to have a real passion for what you're doing.
Definitely.
And that's basically what you just said.
There's no point if you're not going to love what you're doing and want to see the wonderful things that you will achieve with your clients. There's no point you doing it. What we're doing is not quick fixes. We want to change people's lives, and that's what hypnotherapy is about. It's about changing mindsets. And I get a buzz every single time when they come in. They're like little shadows, and they walk out and they go, yes. And to me, I know I've done my job then. And then I'll follow them up a week later just to check that they're still with that buzz, or they'll email me through or send me texts or whatever. Because, it is a wonderful job to do. Although it doesn't feel like work sometimes. Yes, sometimes it does feel like work when it's, if you're working with abuse and things like that, it's very difficult work, and you've got to be geared up to do that type of hypnotherapy. But most of it, you can empower people and inspire them in one session, to be fair. And that's why I just love doing what I do. And I just love inspiring and empowering the students, as you well know.
No,
Not that I can say inspired and empowered you, to be fair.
I've already pointed out before, you in various ways you have, and you did, and lots of cake and biscuits and things.
Lots of cake. I think food's a great part of food is a big part of our training, to be fair. It's a big part of it, because you put, when I cook and I do things, I put a lot of love into what I'm doing because I love it. And that's how I am with my clients and my students, but that's who I am as a person, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Susie. Everyone at home, thank you for joining us again. Don't forget, in a week's time, there'll be another edition goes live at hypnosisweek.com. Right below this video, the links that you will see are the links to go and visit Susie's website to find out more, to contact her, and to find out about the anxiety training courses, the GHSC approved training courses, or just maybe even to, trust me, if you want a therapist for yourself, because there are people in this industry who get burnout. I can also thoroughly recommend Susie to be your therapist, not just your trainer. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you too.
Bye for now.
Bye.